Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another Fridays with Mrs. Ginny. I am your host, Mrs. Ginny. And friends, if you are wondering, Virginia, what is the occasion for your change up in appearance? Well, friends, tomorrow I am headed up to Northern Virginia with my family, and we are going to be taking our maternity pictures up there. So I had to, lose the twist for a little while. I had to get out of my natural habitat of my protective style and venture over here to a more picturesque style. So it's fun to visit, but I will be back to my braids and my twist, before you know it. Okay. So, anyways, we have a good show planned for you tonight, friends. Keeping along with our spooky theme for October, tonight we're going to be talking about the occult. Okay. And a lot of people, they think that, the occult and dark magic and, like the different aspects of spirituality, like they think that these are jokes and games and oh, that's just, the media, that's movies and TV, that's not really real, the spirit realm, that's not really real, numerology and talking to spirits and interacting with the spirit world. Oh, that's in books. No, friend, it's not. It is in reality, and it's all around us. Okay, so if you were here or if you watched the replay of Every Word Wednesday that I did this week, then I was saying how, once you start looking into this, the more you'll see that it really is everywhere. It's in all aspects of life, it's for all ages, it's just all encompassing. And so we are going to be touching on that today. And I'm actually going to be dropping the link early because I have down quite a few examples. But if you guys have any examples, then you guys are more than welcome to join in on that. Okay, I just saw a message on my phone and it made me laugh. But okay. Okay, so we got be sure to not live stream and drive. Okay. So okay, I guess he's saying he made it in, like made it home. So I'm glad you're home now. But very good. Thank you to everybody who's here. We got people, clamoring, chiming in really early. Got Jason in the building. Our regular, we got Catalea. I mean Catalia. We got Lead. We got Lionel. So we already have a really good crowd tonight. And so I appreciate you guys being here. And so let's jump right into this for you guys. Man, today I was going through it, man. I am officially 32 weeks yesterday. And so I am coming right along. I see in the comments, Jason says that the baby's almost here. Man, he cannot come soon enough. And every week that goes by, I inch closer and closer to my due date. And I just feel more and more tired. And he just feels more and more heavy. And I'm like, oh my goodness, when is this going to end? And I know when it's going to end, in about 8 weeks or so, but it's exhausting. And so I was not energy filled right before the show. Like, like honestly, like I do the planning for the show and I, set my notes up and then I like sit in my studio, my guest bedroom. And I sit in here and I'm just like this, like just looking at the computer, setting everything up, setting up the intro. And then as soon as the camera turns on, I'm excited. But yeah, I just feel so like I drag and I'm not sleeping well. Anyways, that's not what you came here for. So you didn't hear to come here to listen to me complain about being pregnant once again. We're here to talk about the occult, okay? And so we're going to start today by talking about what the Bible has to say about not necessarily the occult, because the occult isn't a term that's used in the Bible, but we're going to talk about occultic practices and how the Bible condemns them. Okay, so if you want to follow along, we are in Deuteronomy chapter 18, and this only has 22 verses. And so we're going to read this whole thing. And then after this, we are going to go to Exodus 22 and then read verse 18. Okay, so let's jump right into this. Let's see here. Okay, and so we're going to be, this is, the context of this is Moses, instructing the people and the Levites, how to run things and what things to accept and what not to accept. All right. And so starting off, it says, the priests, the Levites, and all the tribe of Levi shall have no part nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings of the Lord made by fire and his inheritance. Therefore shall they have no inheritance among their brethren. The Lord is their inheritance, as he hath said unto them. And this shall be the priest's due from the people and from them that offer a sacrifice, whether it be ox or sheep, and they shall give unto the priest the shoulder and the two cheeks and the maw, the first fruit also of thy corn, of thy wine, and of thine oil, and the first of the fleece of thy sheep shalt thou give him. For the Lord thy God hath chosen him out of all thy tribes to stand to minister in the name of the Lord, him and his sons forever. And if a Levite come from any of thy gates out of all Israel, where he sojourned, and come with all the desire of his mind unto the place where the Lord shall choose, then he shall minister in the name of the Lord his God, as all his brethren the Levites do, which stand there before the Lord. They shall have a like portion to eat beside that which cometh of the sale of his patrimony. When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. Okay. And so the things that are about to be listed are things that are considered abominations by God. Okay, so very serious. Verse 10, it says, there shall not be found among you any that maketh his son or daughter to pass through the fire, nor or that use divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch. Okay, so let's park it right there for a second, because what exactly is this talking about? People say that, oh, the Bible's antiquated, but it's really not, because people really don't change. Okay, and so here in verse 10, it says that there shall not be found among you any that maketh his son or daughter to pass through the fire. So this is child sacrifice. Okay. Offering your son or daughter up to the devil, which they, because like I said last week, or no, not last week, in Every Word Wednesday, that, people, they think that they're offering things and they're offering sacrifices and they're, making atonement for their sins or what have you to other gods. But in reality, they're making their sacrifices to the devil or to demons. And so, these pagans back in the day, in this time of when the Bible was being written, they were passing their children through the fire to satisfy Molech, when in reality, Molech was just the devil. Okay. And so this is saying that, we as Christians, we as the people of God, because God's people is Christians, that we have no part, we should have no place in child sacrifice. And, most people would say, like, nowadays, most people would say that, well, we're a civilized country. We're a civilized nation. We're a civilized people. We don't do child sacrifices. Oh, are you sure about that? Okay. Because there are literally millions of children who have been sacrificed at the hands of convenience and finances, and just, they just don't want to. They just don't, their parents just don't want them to exist. And so it's called abortion, and it's a genocide. Okay. And anybody who says otherwise is delusional. And so that is something that, of course, Christians have no business partaking in. The next thing is that uses divination. And so divination, let me pull this up just so I'm not giving you guys any false information. Okay. And here it says divination is a widespread cultural practice that involves using rituals or practices to gain insight into a question or situation. So I guess what would be a modern form of divination that, like, we would be familiar with is like a palm reader, a card reader, a psychic, people who look into crystal balls, things like that. I don't know about you guys, but in my area, I see a lot of these signs. I see a lot of those little, yard signs, like at the intersection or, at a turn I'm about to make. I remember I used to go to this church, growing up, and there was a palm reader on the way to the church. And usually when I see these places, they look like, somebody's house. They're not like these big like office buildings, like a dentist office or anything. They're usually like these really small operations. Thankfully, hopefully a lot of people aren't going there, but the shame is that anybody's going there. But yeah, so that's what, we would understand that as, in our modern terminology, be somebody like a tarot card reader, someone who reads tea leaves, does all that stuff, trying to see into the future, a medium, someone like that. Okay. So that is what that is talking about as someone who uses divination. And then the next one is observer of times. So that's someone who, tries to predict the future based off of astrology. Okay. Someone who will say, oh, you're like I'm a Cancer. Okay. And that's not something that I even really knew growing up. Like that's not something I ever kept up with. But as I've gotten older, I've, just met more people, and I've had the question asked to me, kind of frequently now that I've gotten older, is, what's your sign? Oh, what sign are you? Especially now, now that I think about it, the more once I got married, more people asked me what my sign is, because they wanted to know if my husband and I were compatible. And it's like, friend, we're already married. If we're not compatible, then that's just unfortunate, because it's just we're just gonna have to stay uncompatible. Um, but yeah, people would ask me what's my sign, and I eventually I knew what to say. I was programmed properly to say that I'm a Cancer because my birthday is June 26th. And then people would ask me, "Oh, what's your husband's sign?" And I didn't have the foggiest clue of what the hell what his sign was. But apparently, I have been indoctrinated and found out that he's a Pisces. His birthday's February 20th. So I don't know. Half the people say that we're compatible. Half people say that we're not. I mean, it's up in the air because these things don't mean anything. I'm sure half the blogs will tell you that Cancers and Pisces go well together, and then the other half of the blogs will tell you that no, they shouldn't get together. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it's not real. It's not that it's not real. It's that that stuff does not actually have any real bearing on you unless you want it to. Okay. If you invite that junk into your life, then it will have an effect on you. But if you're a Christian, and if you just reject that stuff, then it's not going to have any bearing on you. You're compatible with whoever you want to be compatible with. Okay. Um, and then the last one, oh no, and then an enchanter. So an enchanter, I guess, would be like the male version of a witch. Because a witch is like a female, so it's like a whore and a whoremonger. Like a whore is a woman and a whoremonger is a man. I think that's what that's saying. But yeah. And then so next verse is verse 11, says, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. Okay, and so a charmer, I would imagine first thing that comes to mind with that is, like a snake charmer. The person who like gets the snake to jump out of the woven basket, like in Aladdin or something. So some of these are a little bit more specific to certain cultures, but regardless, consulter of familiar spirits. So yeah, that's like that's the same. I guess they're slightly different, distinctions. Oh my gosh, guys, my mom is here. Mom. So you guys are getting blessed with the first and the second generation of Mrs. Ginny. So everybody say hey to my mom. But anyways, yeah, consulted with familiar spirits. So this is someone, who talks to the dead, someone like a Catholic who, tries to talk to Mary and talk to the dead saints. Okay, those are a consulter with familiar spirits. A wizard. Okay, so maybe that would be a male witch instead of an enchanter. I guess an enchanter would be like someone. Well, I don't know the difference between an enchanter and a wizard. But anyways, so they're, it's all bad. Okay, it's all in the bag of things that are an abomination, even though they might be slightly different. Or a necromancer, and a necromancer is similar to someone who consults with familiar spirits, but a necromancer is someone who, I guess, wants to talk to this, like wants the spirits to talk back to them, or wants to, have further engagement with the dead person. Because maybe just a consulter of familiar spirits is someone who seeks guidance from familiar spirits, so dead people, while a necromancer would be somebody who talks to them for more reasons than just getting advice. And then so moving along, in verse 12, it says, "For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee." Okay. And then 13 says, "Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God. For these nations which thou shalt possess hearkened unto observers of times and unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God hath not suffered thee to do so." And so, I've said it before and I'll say it again that, legitimate Christianity is not a religion of just tolerating anything. Okay. It's not anything goes with God's people, and so we as Christians should have sharp lines of distinction as to what we're going to put up with and, what we're going to accept as being okay. And that list that, we just listed off in 10, 11, those are things that are just not okay under any circumstances. And then verse 15 says, "The Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken, according to all thou desireth of the Lord thy God in Horeb, in the day of the assembly, saying, Let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, neither let me see this great fire any more, that I die not. And the Lord said unto me, They have well spoken that which they have spoken. I will raise them up a prophet from among their people, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. And if thou say in thine heart, how shall we know the word which the Lord hath not spoken? When a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord hath not spoken. But the prophet hath spoken it presumptuously. Thou shalt not be afraid of him. Okay. And so that little part right there, that wrap up verse, this verse right here should just be an open and shut case as to why Islam, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, all those religions should just be completely shut down and should be given no credence at all based off this little passage right here from 20 to 22. Because Muhammad, Joseph Smith, Charles Taze Russell, Ellen G. White, and some other bozos made predictions about the future that didn't come true. Buddhists, apparently. Okay, I didn't know Buddha made any predictions, but if he made any and they didn't come true, then that's just right out of the gate. Okay, you're a false prophet. I'm not afraid of you. I give you no credence. So there's that. And then our last one is Exodus 22:18. Okay. Okay. And so this one is reinforcing the fact that thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. And so, in God's judgment, in God's government is what I'm looking for. Certain crimes are punishable by death, and being a witch is one of them. Just like being a kidnapper, being a murderer, things like that. Certain crimes, they get death penalty. And since we're talking about the occult tonight, I'm focusing on the fact that being a witch is something that God has so little tolerance for that he said, just purge that evil from among you. Okay. Jason says that Ellen G. White was a huge one. Yeah, she made like a few predictions that all didn't come true. And it's like, what more needs to be said? He says, oh no, not predictions. People bow down to. Yeah, okay. So yeah, people just worshiped him, like he was deity or something, even though he wasn't. And so, yes, friend. So we have a video once again. Gonna try to play a video. Everything seems to be running smoothly. Okay, so we'll see how this goes. But I have a little video that I want to share. And when I say little, I do mean little. Okay, it's only 11 seconds. Just kind of touching on how abortion is modern day passing your sons and daughters through the fire. Um, and so let's pull that up. Let's see here. Okay. And so, in case you can't read it, because like I said, it's going to go by pretty fast. It says here that abortion has nothing to do with witchcraft. It's all about women having freedom over their body, in quotes, as to say, like, this is what people say, but in reality, this is what else is happening. Andou na prancha, cuidado, tubarão vai te pegar. Okay. And so here we have a picture of a woman wearing a t-shirt that says pro-abort witch. Okay. Here's another shirt that is being worn by a woman who just is checking off so many NPC boxes. She seems to be covered in tattoos and wearing, this weird like fishnet shorts, and her shirt has like a Ouija board on it, and it looks like she's, pro-choice or, pro-abortion, and she's wearing a mask and just looks ridiculous. Okay, the one that passed by was another shirt that said pro-abort witch. Here, I guess, is a poster that says "Waking the Witch," and unapologetically pro-abortion. Kate Bush, Stevie Nicks. So I guess this was a some kind of concert or event that went on, and it's glorifying witchcraft, and it's saying how it's openly pro-abortion. And then last one is, hold on, let me pull that back up. Okay. So these are, it says to provide abortion care is to believe in the future. And these are like tarot cards. Okay. So these are like, things that, like I was saying earlier, like witches and diviners, they'll read these, tell you your future, try to predict things, stuff like that. And so this is one, for women who are into abortion.
And the devil does not want you to watch this video. I am going to be exposing so much darkness.
Not yet. Not you yet. And then that last one was another one of a woman talking about that concert making a witch. Okay. So yes. And so there and so yeah, so those are different examples of how abortion is still very much tied to the occult. It's still very much tied to witchcraft, and it's something that, like I've said before, certain things are like open secrets. Like how I was talking about how the link between homosexuality and pedophilia is like an open secret in Hollywood. And when it comes to abortion being like a sacrifice, why is it that it's seen as like this empowering thing, and this thing, like you're taking back control, and people, the way that some of these women talk about it is like it's like this euphoric feeling that they get from the idea that they can, that they create life, they have the power to create and destroy life. And this is why, like, and I'll see posts that are like pro-life, or posts that are pro Okay. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me now. So, yeah, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what is going on. I think I have a suspicion as to what is going on. Um, I had a we had a technician come out to our house before and say that like the trees next to our house might be interfering with the internet lines, and so we'll need to have like someone come and cut those trees. Okay, good. Okay, you guys can hear me. So yeah, they said they might have to come and cut those trees. And that was like a year ago. So haven't had someone cut the trees because I'm not sure if it's my rental agency or the city whose the trees belong to, but that's just reminds me that I need to have someone come and cut down those trees. Anyways, so of course I don't remember what I was saying, but I think I was talking about abortion. Um, and so, yes, basically, that is an occult practice. That is something that, oh, yeah, I was saying, oh, yeah, I was about to say that even with women who are pro life, even with women who, love the idea of pregnancy, they'll say this thing about how, women create life. And, I know that they're coming from a place of positivity with it, that women should take the responsibility and the blessing of being able to grow a child seriously because that's a privilege and not a burden. However, women don't create life. Just the same way that we don't have the ability to, destroy life. Only God can give and take away. And so women, we grow life. Okay. So we just grow what the man gives us. And, because, there are plenty of people who they come together and nothing happens. A child does not come forth from that union because a woman can't create life. She can just grow what has been given to her. And if her body's not, up to par for whatever reason, then she's not going to be able to grow it. But yeah, and so, but they get like this like euphoric high from the idea that they can, destroy life and, like their deity, and so it has a spiritual aspect to it. And of course, it would be demonic for women to want to destroy their own children, to want to kill their own children because it's unnatural to not want to be with your own child. And I was thinking about this, and I've thought about this before multiple times about how, just unnatural it is for these men who, impregnate these women and then desert them and they don't want nothing to do with them and they don't want anything to do with their child. And it's like, that is not natural. In 2024 in America, it's very common and we see that a lot, in all different communities, but especially in the Black community. We see these men desert their children. And even women, some women desert their children as well, leave them at fire stations or leave them in dumpsters. But even though that seems to be becoming more common, it's still not natural. And so anybody who has a hatred or like spite out for their own seed is demented in some way. And so, yes, friend, this is of the devil. And we as Christians should be absolutely as far away from this as possible, which this isn't really something I need to harp on quite a bit because, Christians are pretty good about being pro life. And so there's that. Um, but let's go to the point about like how we talked about in Deuteronomy 18, how it said, in the person who is an observer of times. Okay, and so this is very popular online right now. If you go on TikTok, you'll see all these different videos about these astrology girls, and it's kind of become a meme at this point. These women. I saw this meme where it was like a son texting his mom, and it was like, "Mom, what time of day was I born?" And the mom texts back like, "Leave her alone. Don't even disengage." um, because these women who are into astrology and time of day and keeping up with all of that numerology, they're nuts. Okay, these are not the kind of women that you want to be affiliated with. um but and so it kind of has like a jokey kind of air around it right now because people make fun of it. However, it is still not a joke. As kooky as these astrology girls are, what they're playing with is fire. And so I have a video, another quick video for to talk about. Ooh. Okay. So let's get her up here before she starts talking. And she's going to be talking a little bit about astrology and how it has, evil ties and how it's wicked, and it's not something that it's not harmless. People they do certain things. They'll play with a Ouija board, or they might do. I remember, my gosh, when I was a kid in elementary school, doing the Bloody Mary thing where you go into a bathroom and turn off the light and you say Bloody Mary 3 times and you turn around or something and she's supposed to show up. This is trying to conjure up spirits. I don't know if that would fall into consulters with familiar spirits or necromancy, but it's wicked and it's not something that Christians should partake in. And so, zodiac and trying to, use the time of the day and the stars and the moon to try to predict your future or, give you guidance as to what you should do in life. This is not of God. And so she's going to touch on this a little bit.
Answering the question, can demons tell the future? I am an ex-astrologer. I was really, really deep into it. And so I'm going to share with you the spiritual secrets, what really happens deep in astrology and why I left because it is so evil. So the first question is, can demons tell you the future? And the answer is no, they cannot see the future like God can. But if you have ever gone to a psychic or looked at your horoscope and it turned out to be true, here's why. Psychic, when you come in to see a psychic or a medium, they have the ability to communicate with demonic spirits. And so they're communicating with the spirits that have been following you around, that have been assigned to you. That's how they gain information. That's how they can tell you about.
Okay. And so I'm not saying that that's wrong, because I was actually listening to a sermon about this topic, about the occult to prepare for this. And the pastor was saying how there is actually biblical evidence for the concept of guardian angels. Okay. So that's not something that just kind of popped up out of nowhere, which most things don't pop up out of nowhere. They come from some sort of, origin. And so the concept of a guardian angel is not something that's foreign to the Bible. And so he kind of extrapolated using that logic, not something that explicitly is stated in the Bible, but he was like, using that same line of thinking, it makes sense that, people who are unsaved or people who are wicked might have, demons that follow them and, latch on to them. And this is how someone who is a medium, someone who, tries to tell the future, can get some insight on someone that they've never met before, because they have, they're talking to demons, and the demon that is, with that person who invites all that junk into their life, communicate and report back to the medium, and she can give them some kind of information. So that's one way that, a medium or a psychic or what have you could tell you something and it end up being true. But another way, which I would say is probably more common, um, is that they're just reading you. Okay. And so there are lots of videos about this, the way that you hold your hand, the way that you're dressed, the way that you talk, they watch your foot placement, it's body language reading. And a lot of psychics, claim to be psychics. They'll just use these body language reading tactics to read you and to guess things about you. A perfect example of this was there was this movie that came out maybe like 2 years ago called Nightmare Alley. And I didn't know what this movie was about. I thought it was a horror movie, but turns out it's not. It was like a thriller, like, jump scare movie, but it wasn't like a horror movie. But it was about a man who like worked in a circus, and then he got linked up with this woman. I forget all the details. Long story short, he became like a psychic, but he wasn't like entertaining the occult, and he wasn't like talking to spirits. He just became extremely well at reading people and looking at, these different things about them, a bracelet that they might wear, or a necklace, or, just little things about them. He was able to really pick up on that. And so that was how he was able to read people, and people thought, oh, he's gifted, whatever. And so I think that is honestly what happens more often when people go to these psychics. They just they want to feel secure, they want to be reassured, and so they're giving this person, this medium, whatever, more information about themselves than they think that they're giving off, subconsciously, and the person's just able to read them like a book, just through simple, the FBI, does this. They look at a person, they see how they maneuver, and they're like, no, you're lying, stuff like that. So sometimes it's not, they don't even, they're not even a good enough or bad enough medium that they don't even really tap into the spirit world, or just a shyster and a charmer, what's the word I'm looking for? A person who just, takes advantage of you. And so that often happens, I would probably say, more than someone who even is in contact with the beyond.
About your past. They can tell you about your future and give you a prediction and say, this is going to happen to you, and this is your husband's going to die, or this and that. And then you receive that, you come into agreement with it in your body and your soul and your spirit. And then now you give those demons permission, you give them access into your life to carry out those plans. So it's not that the demons can see the future. Their strategy is to get you to come into agreement with them and with their plan. So then they have a legal right, they have spiritual permission to carry out that act or that outcome.
Okay, and then so another thing about this that I do tend to agree with is that, like I've said before, yoga is wicked. Christians should not partake in yoga because it is idol worship to Hindu gods. And so, it's the same kind of logic follows that, when you're doing these poses, doing downward dog and, sunrise warrior or whatever they're called, you're opening yourself up to that spirit realm. And, a lot of people, I guess they don't, feel anything from it. They don't get any kind of spiritual interaction. But if you're already the kind of person looking for a spiritual, outlet, interested in, something more than the physical, then these spirits can jump on you. And some people have reported, feeling like they're in a trance, having euphoric experiences, having outer body experiences while doing these certain yoga poses, because it's not just exercise, it is a spiritual event that they are partaking in, whether they realize it or not. And, they're inviting these spirits onto them.
Astrology works similarly but differently. Astrology first attacks your identity. The first step that the devil uses in astrology is to get you to come into agreement and to accept your zodiac sign. This affects your personality and it opens the door for demons to come into your life. If somebody says, I am a Virgo, and they come into agreement with it and they believe it, they open the door for that spirit. Every zodiac sign is a spirit. There's a spirit of Virgo, there's a spirit of Aries, Sagittarius. There is a chief principality, there is a demon assigned to that. Again, I was in astrology, and as I was leaving, the Holy Spirit was revealing to me these things so I could get deliverance and so I could get free from it. So I'm sharing you spiritual secrets right now. So every zodiac sign, there is a spirit of zodiac sign, and there are a bunch of other spirits that work in the arsenal. For example, Virgo is known for OCD, for anxiety, for people pleasing, or social anxiety. And so all of those spirits, they come when you accept that Virgo spirit, you accept all those other little spirits that come in the gang with it, essentially. So now you've taken on that identity, you've given Virgo permission to prophesy, to speak into your life, and all of those demonic spirits attached to it now have free access to influence your personality, your mind, your spirit, all of those things. Divination comes in because once you have your
Okay, well, I'm gonna just let this finish out and then I'll add my 2 cents.
personality, you want to know your future, you want to know what's going to happen. There's so much more left to say, so like this, so part 2 will pop up in your algorithm and in your feed.
Okay, so yeah. But what she was saying about the whole, zodiac sign thing, I think that is completely spot on, and that's another thing that people have kind of made light of, like turned into a meme, is, these obnoxious, and I keep saying women or females, but this goes for men too, because I've met men who were like into zodiac signs. Like I was in Walmart this one time, and I was, I don't know, I was in one of these aisles, and this man, stopped me, and he was like, "Oh, what's your name? You're pretty," or whatever. And he was like, "What's your sign?" Like, I don't know. And so, this was a guy who like immediately was asking me what my sign was. And so Usually it's women, but there are plenty of men who fall into this trap as well. But it like the meme has become, like a person will say like, oh, I'm sorry that I'm so obnoxious or I'm so annoying. Like I'm literally just all Gemini. Like I'm just a Gemini. Like it's literally like I can't even help it. And it's like, no, you're just obnoxious and don't take accountability for your own actions. So, I completely agree with that lady in the video. And I don't know if she's actually a Christian. I didn't look that far into her channel. Usually I try to give people the benefit of the doubt until I hear something otherwise. I had a video I was going to play for you guys that I was listening to that I was agreeing with for the most part. And then I heard them say, they were talking about Jesus and they called him Yeshua. And I said, oh, I said I can't show this to my audience because I don't want to show you guys stuff from people that I know aren't saved. And if you think that Jesus' name is Yeshua, you're not saved, okay? Because there's no other name given unto men under heaven by which we must be saved, okay? But that's for another stream. And so I was like, oh, man, I can't. I don't want to show them this because it automatically put everything they were saying into question and under scrutiny because it's like, okay, well, you're not saved. So now where is this information that you think that you're getting coming from? So I don't know if that girl is saved, but giving her the benefit of the doubt, let's say she is. Regardless, the information is valid because these people who are into the astrology, into the zodiac signs, they take it to heart. And they're like, lots of people will not date someone simply based off of their sign. If a woman is I don't even know what all the signs are. If a woman is a Sagittarius, whatever sign is allegedly not compatible with that, let's say it's a Capricorn, she will not talk to you. Like as soon as she finds that you're immediately blocked, immediately ghosted. She won't even give you the time of day. She won't even give you a chance. And it's like some of these people, they really take this astrology stuff to heart. And because of that, they absorb all of that stuff that they think goes along with their birth month, or because not exactly each month, it's like every 30 days or something. And they really hold a lot of credence for that. And so if online says that, okay, yeah, Sagittarius is they're loud and they, make themselves known and they don't take any crap from anybody and they're bosses and all this stuff, then people will adopt that as their personality because they think that that's just naturally how they are, when in reality they've just been influenced into thinking that about themselves. You see what I'm saying? It's not, it's not the cart, it's not the horse before the cart, it's the cart before the horse. It's almost like a placebo. Like if you take a drug and it's like, this is going to help you. And because you think it's going to help you, it actually does. So when you read these horoscopes about how, today as a Cancer, you're going to have a wonderful day and something's going to surprise you, but you're going to, take it, with, you're going to take it with a grain of salt and you're going to keep on going because you have a good attitude. And then something happens to you just because these are general, everybody has things that happen to them randomly and then, they can take it in stride. And so because you read that morning, you've already programmed your mind for that day to think, oh, something strange is going to happen to me, but I'm going to be able to take it in stride and I'm not going to let it destroy my day. And then the most minute thing is going to happen to you. You're going to be like, oh, I knew that was going to happen because of my horoscope, And so, when people, they latch on to these things, it has an effect on them because they let it have an effect on them. So yeah, it's like spiritual placebo or like mental placebo when these people get all wrapped up in their zodiac signs and whatnot. Hello. The topic for right now is we're talking about astrology and like zodiacs and why they're not good and why you shouldn't dabble in them as a Christian. And the overall topic is the occult. And so, yeah, and so, a lot of these people, they take that stuff and they run with it. And so they are inviting, like that woman in the video said, they are encouraging that spirit, or the whole gang of spirits, my name is Legion, for we are many of spirits, to indwell in them, the spirit of pride or the spirit of arrogancy or, even things that might be seen as positive. They have a spirit of, I'm going to be an overcomer and I'm going to, be confident in my day because my horoscope told me that I'm going to have a great day, things like that. And so you don't want to play with that because, yeah, the horoscope says good things, I guess, most of the time. But, if it says that something bad is going to happen to you, then, you're already inviting this idea like, okay, I'm bracing myself for something bad to happen to me. When, the Bible says that, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And that goes for every day. Okay. And so, of course, every day is not going to be peaches and sunshine as a Christian. I'm not Joel Osteen. I would never tell you that. But what I will say is that no matter what happens in your day, that it is the day that the Lord has made, and you should rejoice and be glad in it. We got a viewer, Sean, here, says that numerology and astrology are tools like the Bible. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Yeah, they're tools, but they're tools of the devil. They're tools of wickedness that should not have should not have a say in the life of Christians, that is. And so moving on from that, the last point that I want to make, and just like our 3 little bullet points that I have up here, is necromancers. And so like I always say, if there's ever a stream that goes by where I don't at least kick in the back to the Catholics at least one time, that I have been killed and this is a body double. It's not really Mrs. Ginny. Okay. Because when it comes to necromancy, let me pull up the definition of that as well for you guys. Necromancer. Okay. Is my tab on? No, I have to So when it comes to being a necromancer, it says here that a person who practices necromancy, which is the use of magic to communicate with the dead. Okay. And so now what it means by magic, I suppose, would be subjective because this is, Google and not the Bible. But what the Bible, talks about as necromancy is using any kind of means to try to communicate with the dead. And so, the primary example of this in the Bible is when King Saul tries to pull up Solomon. Yeah, Solomon. I think that's right. And he actually does pull up Solomon. He goes to a woman who has a familiar spirit. He goes to a witch, and the witch tries to bring up Solomon and actually does bring up Solomon. And Solomon is like, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing? You know better than to do this. And he's like, King Saul, he's like, God isn't talking to me. I need your help. And he's like, if God's not talking to you, what am I supposed to do with you? And then this is so wicked that King Saul, he's told that he is going to have to die the next day. Didn't lose his salvation, okay, like some people will try to tell you, but he did have to die. And so there's that. But modern examples of necromancy would be like the Day of the Dead. I believe in Spanish it's like de los moros or something. I'm not sure. But that is where, in Hispanic culture, I think it's specifically Mexican, but maybe it's all types of Hispanic culture, where they kind of acknowledge and, honor their dead by like painting skulls and painting their faces and going to cemeteries and, trying to communicate with their dead ancestors or, even recently deceased family members. And they try to, do all of that. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Jason. Do you speak Spanish? I didn't know you spoke Spanish. Oh, well, your last name is Vega, so maybe you are Spanish. That makes sense. Okay. El Dia de los Muertos. Okay. Where's Abraham when you need him? Okay. And then Sean, he goes on to say that even the devil was used by God. Well, yeah. I mean, everything and everyone can be used by God. But that doesn't make that it's good. God can use someone for evil. And Jason says, I speak a little, but understand it 200% for the most part. Okay. So you don't really speak it, but you understand it. Okay. That's kind of how it usually is for the younger people. I have a friend who she doesn't really speak it. I mean, she can, but she doesn't really speak it like she used to back when she lived at home. and but she totally understands it. But yeah, and so this is a practice where people they honor the dead and they talk to the dead, and it's seen as great. It's kind of like the Hispanic version of Halloween, as what I kind of understand it as, because people that get together for feasts and banquets. They make it a whole day of it. They make a whole family event of it. Kids get into it. I think they probably I don't know, they might even have the day off. I don't even know. but but it's like a big thing in like Hispanic culture. Um, and friend, it's wicked. We as Christians, and a lot of Hispanics, they're Catholics, so we need to pray for them anyway. But as Christians, we should not engage in this, no matter what our culture says. Okay, so as a Black person, there are a lot of things that my culture indulges in that I completely reject. And so if you're Hispanic, then what is it again? El Dia de los Muertos is a practice that you need to leave behind if you're going to be walking after Christ. Another example, like I said before, is that I have to touch on the Catholics, is the Eucharist. Okay, thinking that you're literally eating the flesh and drinking the blood of Jesus. When he was crucified, that is necromancy. Okay, that is idol worship, because you're idolizing his physical body and blood when you're completely missing. It's going over your head the fact that it was spiritual. He says, Jason says, it is chanted by a woman in a creepy way. What is the title of the day or something else? Oh, interesting. Flores, Flores, para los muertos. Okay, so they chant that? Maybe that has something to do with, the culture being Catholic. That would make a lot of sense. Interesting. I didn't know that. And then another example. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. So she's saying, yeah, the thing that he typed. Interesting. And then another example of necromancy is what the Catholics do of praying to saints. Okay. And they swear up and down, oh, it's not worship, it's veneration. Oh, it's okay. Oh, we're just trying to seek guidance from them. Oh, they're just looking out for us. Friend, if even if just 100 people, in the world, which, Catholicism is a humongous religion, so it's far more than that. But let's just say just 100 people are praying to Saint Peter at the same time, asking him for guidance or what have you, then you think that he can hear all those 100 people at the same time? No, because he's not omniscient. He's not all knowing. And so this idea that we pray to saints to try to get advice from them and to have them intercede for us is necromancy. Okay, it is pagan, it is idol worship, and it is something that legitimate Christianity has never stood for at any time. Oh, okay, Jason says flowers for the dead. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, I knew that like flowers were like a part of it. They what I see whenever I look that up, look up Day of the Dead, is like flowers and sugar skulls or candy skulls. A lot of paint. It seems to be a very colorful event. But yeah, the devil, he's always trying to paint up what he's doing and his wickedness and try to dress it up as being fashionable, when in reality it's wicked. And so I have a lot of examples of things in pop culture that cater, that are leaned from the occult or gleaned from the occult, that we just encounter every day. Well, some of these not every day, but we all know about. These are very popular examples, I would say, and I'm sure everybody here has been familiarized with at least one of these things, if not more. And it's just all around us, and it's like we don't even think about it anymore as to like how, oh, this is wicked. Like this comes from a spiritual wickedness. And so here it is, some examples are that Lucky Charms. Okay. When I thought of that, it was like, well, is that really the occult? But it is, because it's glorifying magic. The idea of leprechauns is not a good thing. This is not something that is godly. It's glorifying magic, and I think they even say on the box, like, oh, they're magically delicious. Okay. And magic is of the devil. And so I don't know the lore behind leprechauns, with Irish culture and exactly how that idea came to be. But I know that, Lucky Charms is something that is directed towards children, which is a common theme with a lot of these things, ironically enough, not shocking. That, is directed towards children, and it, makes light of magic, the occult, spirituality, things like that. Like one of the charms is a horseshoe, which is, supposed to be lucky. And just the concept of luck is unbiblical. We don't believe in luck. We believe in blessings and cursings, that God bestows on us, and not luck and chance and all this stuff. He says, I just know that from the movie Quick Change, there's a lady in that movie chanting Flores por el muerto. Muerto? Okay, I've never heard of that movie Quick Change. But Jason has, and he says that was a great scene. Well, the whole movie is spectacular. Interesting. Okay, so this stream was brought to you by Quick Change. The next example is the show Bewitched, which is an old show. And, people, especially conservatives, so like people on my end of the spectrum, the political spectrum, they love to glorify the past and say like, oh, we just need to get back to the, life, in the 50s and 60s, when things were amazing and when America was perfect and, everything was right back then. And if we could just get back then everything would be great. Friend, a lot of why we have what we have today did not just come out of a vacuum. It is the logical and reasonable succession from the things that were allowed and tolerated and accepted back in the day. And so why we have, the show like Lucifer now, why we have, just open, wickedness and just able to have like tarot card readers all over the place is because we have a society that kind of, just accepted and went along with the idea of black magic, which is something that was normalized by shows like Bewitched. Even if they had a really catchy theme song. And so another example is this song called Black Magic by this band called Little Mix. And I want to pull up these lyrics for you. So if you are coming from my Instagram, then this is the song that I use to promote tonight's stream. And I use that, ironically. But so here, hold on. Okay. Let me pull up these lyrics for you. So this is just like this wasn't even like a big song of theirs. They've had, like other, much bigger songs. Little Mix is a girl group that is now defunct, but they were really popular around the time of like One Direction and 5 Seconds of Summer, if you know what I'm talking about. But they were pretty popular a few years ago. And this is one of their songs. And just from the moment I ever first heard it, I was like, I can't believe that they were allowed to make this song. But get a load of this, y'all. Let me see. So here's the chorus. It says, take a sip of my secret potion. I'll make you fall in love. For a spell that can't be broken, one drop should be enough. Boy, you belong to me. I got the recipe, and it's called black magic. Take a sip of my secret potion, one taste, and you'll be mine. It's a spell that can't be broken, and it'll keep you up all night. Boy, you belong to me. I got the recipe, and it's called black magic. Okay, so this is a song that is openly and explicitly advocating for, casting spells, love potion, all this stuff to their young demographic, which, Little Mix, even though, they're adult women, it's an adult woman group, obviously their fan base is like teens, early teens, late teens, and then, women who are older. But yes, I mean, it's just so explicit, I'll cast a spell on you, drink this potion and you'll fall in love with me, and just kind of like just soft pedaling this occult and and black magic, and the song's literally called Black Magic. Like, back in the day, back in the good old days, you had to like play a record backwards to hear the secret message that was on it. You had to pull up a song and like look at it, in like look at the picture inverted and flipped around and play the song backwards to try to hear what the person was saying about glorifying the devil. But now it's just out in the open. They don't need to hide anything. Yeah, of course. I celebrate the devil. I hear some black magic. But there's that. And then, with it being the certain time of the year, of course, everybody loves that movie Hocus Pocus. I was never allowed to watch that movie growing up, so I don't have any kind of nostalgic feel towards it. But I think they made a second one like last year. They made a sequel to it maybe last year or 2 years ago. But the original Hocus Pocus still has a very much cult following, and that glorifies the occult. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I remember I couldn't watch that movie growing up, or that TV show growing up. My dad, he I didn't have like a ton of restrictions on what I could and couldn't watch. I mean, I had a few. I feel like more than maybe my other friends, but not as many as I feel like I'll probably have for my kids. But then again, TV's is going to be a lot worse when my kids are coming up than it was when I was coming up. But yeah, stuff like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, I couldn't watch. Another was The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Okay, I know anybody who's my age has heard of that show, which is a show once again just soft pedaling and just warming people up to the idea of the Grim Reaper and magic and spells and just the underworld, spirituality. Soft pedaling it, making it sound like it's fun and cool and silly, and that there's nothing really to it, and it's indoctrinating kids to think that this is okay. And another example that's coming to mind is Courage the Cowardly Dog. Now, maybe not this one so much, because it didn't have a whole lot of like spirituality, but it was just like scary. And I don't know, I wasn't allowed to watch that show either. But I did like go back and watch a lot of it when I grew up, but I had to stop watching it once they changed the voice actor of Eustace in like the later seasons, because he just didn't sound the same, and I couldn't continue to watch it anyways. But it kind of touched on that, it kind of touched on the occult a little bit. But that just came to mind. Another one is the show / toys called Monster High. Okay, those kind of were coming out like when like I was kind of aging out of playing with dolls. So I never had any Monster High stuff. But Mario, his sister, who's a little bit younger than me, I think she's like in her early 20s and I'm in my late 20s. So he said that she was really into those. But yeah, Monster High, each of the little characters, I'll pull them up for you guys. For some of you old fogies who don't know what I'm talking about. Let's see here. Pull up these dolls. So they're basically like Bratz dolls that you would think would be just like for Halloween time. They're just like spooky themed Bratz dolls. But yeah, so what does this want? This is what I want. So yeah, as you can see, the premise is that it's like a high school, and each of the main characters is a daughter of a famous, scary movie character. So there's like the daughter of Dracula, the daughter of Frankenstein, the daughter of a werewolf, a mummy. I think this one is like, hold on, you can't see my monitor, but I think this one's like the daughter of Cleopatra. I think she's a zombie. I don't know what she has going on. Maybe she's a mermaid. But yeah, so it's just these different characters, and they're supposed to all be different, different daughters of other, like mythical characters, occultic characters. And so there's that, and you can see just, and the reason why I say that they're like, spooky themed Bratz dolls is because, Bratz dolls always had that kind of image of being like whorish looking. And so these kind of remind me of that as well, with their skimpy shorts and their skimpy skirts and their, extreme platform heels. So yeah, I think they're supposed to appeal to that same audience, but just have that, difference in distinction of, being that they're like descendants of different characters. So there's them. And then another example is, there's this movie on Disney Channel, which recently got a sequel, which is called Descendants, which is basically just like that, except it was a movie where it is about the descendants of classic movie villains. So like the child of Maleficent, the child of, all these different Disney movie villains. It's about, what their kids are up to and how their kids are bad and stuff like that. And so once again, and then just Disney in general, like I had this whole theme of, wanting to talk about Disney and why Disney is not for children. But I mean, Disney's not for anybody, because Disney is one of the main contributors to glorifying and soft shoeing the occult to children, okay, and to putting it out into the masses and making it seem like it's okay. And because I think not the first feature film, because I think that was like Tugboat, whatever his name was, Steamboat Willie. But Fantasia, it had like some kind of clout about being the first of its type. I don't know if it was the first, not first feature film, but I don't know. But the movie Fantasia, a groundbreaking movie in, in the cinema world, and it's all about magic. It's glorifying witchcraft, and and I'm sure a lot of Christians at the time, whenever it came out, in like the early 20th century, they were fighting against it. And we today, we shouldn't, take a back seat to this. We shouldn't get, ease up on it just because it was, in the past, and we kind of look at the past like things were better. But this is wickedness. And and Disney has built their entire brand around magic. Oh, the magic of being a kid. Oh, they love the wizards and the magic, and they glorify all of that in their entire brand. I mean, magic is inescapable from the brand of Disney, and we wonder why it's so wicked and satanic, and why they advocate and promote such wickedness today, when that's what it's always been. They've never been shy about what they believe. They have never, they've never been a godly company. They've never made any movies that, were supposed to be, good and edifying. If anything, one thing that I'll never forget is my favorite movie that I've said before, which is The Prince of Egypt. That movie was first pitched to Disney for them to, produce it, but they didn't want to, because they didn't like the religious theme of it. They thought that it would alienate the audience, or whatever. And so then the guy who, had this idea, he took it to DreamWorks, and then DreamWorks did it. And then it became a smash hit, and it's one of the best movies ever conceived on the face of the earth. And if you disagree, then you're entitled to your wrong opinion. But anyways. And so, Disney, it's not like they're a company that makes good stuff, and that, it's in that it has any type of positive messaging, for Christians. If anything, like the more you look at their movies, the more you realize that they're teaching bad things to kids. Even like the classics, and like Little Mermaid, and Mulan, and all these different movies. They're teaching like female empowerment, and they're teaching feminism, and they're teaching like, oh, just disobey your parents and do whatever you want, and have a man rescue you, and that's the end all be all in life. And it's like, why would we ever like, just because it's a cartoon doesn't mean that it's actually good for kids to watch and ingest the message of. And so there's that. And then my last example is, probably the most famous example of, wickedness and, occult magic, witchcraft that was ever marketed to kids is Harry Potter, which, like I said, back in the day, whenever this came out, I think like in the late 90s, early 90s, that's when Harry Potter first came out. I don't know. I've never read it, but not, don't pat me on the back for being such a good Christian. It's just because, like I said before, niggas don't read. And so there's a lot of series that I haven't read, but yeah, so that is probably the biggest, thing that was ever marketed towards kids and young adults that glorified the occult. And parents back in the day, they used to be on top of it. Those parents back in the early 2000s, they were good about telling their kids, they couldn't, read those books and watch those movies. And I remember that, I remember that my dad, I mean, I never asked to read it, so he never had to tell me no. But a lot of Christian parents, they were good about it, and that was kind of like, later on that, like I said, became a meme, of people saying like, oh, if you weren't allowed to, read Harry Potter books, you may be entitled to compensation, for damages or whatever. And it's like, good on those parents for seeing, the devil plainly clothed and saying like, no, you can't read this and ingest all this garbage about wizards and witches and just glorifying witchcraft, which is of the occult. Okay. Okay, Jason, he says that never seen, even though was given the boxes to them, I never had an interest. I had to believe it from my background of being a Christian. You're talking about Harry Potter? Someone gave you like a box set of all the books, but you were never really interested in reading them. I remember like, they were at school, okay, yeah, he's talking about the books. And so, yeah, I had access, to the movies. Okay, yeah. And so, like, movies that are based on books, I'll have still not read the book, but I might have watched the movie. Like, I've watched Twilight, I've watched all of those movies. And shame on me for being a Christian and indulging in that garbage. Okay. And so, your favorite housewife, she's not spotless. Okay. So, I've engaged in things that, looking back, it's like, that was not ideal. That was not edifying. That was not, the best move for me as a woman of God to make. And, all you can do is just move forward and, ask God to forgive you and, move forward. And so, but yeah, I used to be really into the Twilight series. I thought that it was just so cool. I thought it was so much fun. I even saw a few of them. I didn't get into it at first. I thought the people who were into it were really lame because like they just made it so OD. Like they were talking about it on the news. Like people were lining up around the block at the movie theater to watch these movies, and like adults were getting into it. I'll never forget. I was watching the news with my dad, and they were talking about like Twilight adults, and like grown women were picking like Team Jacob, Team Edward, and it's like even to my understanding as someone who didn't read the book, I was like, she's gonna pick who she picked in the books. So there's no point in being on someone's team because isn't the movie just gonna follow the book and do whatever the book did? So we already know how it ends. But anyways, like I just thought that people were just like going so OD for it, like it made it not cool. But around the time I think Breaking Dawn came out, which is like the second to last movie, so that was when they started to like really milk it for the these movie books. These book movies, where they because it's like a 4-part series, but they turned it into like a 5-part series because they turned the last book into 2 movies just to squeeze out every dollar from you. And so when I think Breaking Dawn Part 1 came out, that's when I was like, oh wow, like, oh no, like I might have to watch it, see what it's about, I might have to get into it, And I was talking to someone on my school bus about it, and she was like, well, you can't go see Breaking Dawn if you haven't seen the rest of them. And I was like, well, I mean, I can kind of figure out what's going on. But she was right. And so I like binged all the movies and I was totally hooked. And ever since then, I was like, oh, I love all these movies. They're so great. But, when I was a child, I thought as a child and I understood as a child. But when I became an adult, when I became a woman, I understood as a woman and I comprehended as a woman. And so I had to put that stuff behind me because it's not right. At the end of the day, it's not right. And so even though it kind of glorifies waiting until marriage, which I thought was, great, it's still not right. Yeah, had to throw away my childish stuff, which is the Twilight series. And I'm not going to say, friend, that when I go on, I think it's on either Netflix or Hulu, I can't remember, but when I have access to Netflix, and I'm not going to say that when I go up there and I see that it's available, I don't give it a second thought, because the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. But I have managed to resist it, thankfully, because I don't really watch TV all that often anyway. I'm usually just on my phone. So I'm not the kind of person to be just like scrolling, mindlessly or aimlessly on like a streaming site or, definitely not on cable TV. So thankfully I don't have to deal with that temptation very often, because we're supposed to flee temptation. So but yeah, so I had to give that up because like in the movie, she talks about, in the first movie that is, she talks about, understanding Jacob's tribe and, why he ended up as a werewolf because, she got this book about black magic and this book about magic and all this stuff. And, you know, people turning into werewolves and vampires, this is not a Oh dear. We will not be deterred, friends. They can throw whatever they want at us. You know, YouTube can try to shut down this stream, but we shall overcome. Okay, so I appreciate those of you who stick around and hang in there. But so we are almost wrapping up. But I do have a few more points that I want to make because, you know, this occult and, witchcraft and, false spirits, inviting them in. This is not something that has just infected, the heathen, unsaved world. But of course, it has affected people claiming to be children of God. It has affected, churches. And so I do have a couple examples of that as well. And then we will wrap up before, any more turmoil can happen. But I do have a couple more videos that I want to show. One of them being of everybody's favorite prosperity preaching nut, Kenneth Copeland, who, oh, we have a guest. So before we get into that, let us bring up our guest. Are you ready? Okay, he says he's ready. And so, friends, hold on, let me get this right. It's not all the time that we get a guest. So, friends, please put your hands together for Michi.
Hey, Ginny.
How are you tonight, Michi?
Good. It's me, Michi.
Me, Michi. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So, how are you? What would you like to contribute to the stream tonight?
I've been good. Well, I would like to contribute to. Well, first, yesterday, I met these guys. There was Christians. And, they gave me this book. Like, I don't know, like what it is. And, maybe like you can tell me.
The Book of Mormon? You're not familiar with it?
Nah. I just been locked on my book I written in the Bible.
Okay.
It's like a remix version of the Bible. But I had like a lot of questions. Like I kind of want to get curious about it, but it's just I just be fascinated, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So okay, well, just starting off, the people who came to your door, they were Mormons, and so that's why they gave you the Book of Mormon. And so Mormons, they call themselves Christians, but they are not Christians, because they believe in a works-based salvation, and they don't even believe that Jesus. They believe that Jesus is a God, but they believe in multiple gods. So they're actually polytheistic. Surprisingly enough, most people don't know that.
Oh,
Yes. But even just aside from that, the reason why the number one reason why Mormons are not Christians and why they're not saved is because they believe in a works-based salvation, like every other false religion. And so what you have there, the Book of Mormon, is like, now I sometimes I get them mixed up, but they have two like holy books. They have the Book of Mormon, and then they have the Pearl of Great Price. And one of them is like their specific version of the Bible. I forget which one is which. Like one of them is supposed to be like a remix, like a translation of the Bible, and then another one is supposed to be like an addition to the Bible. I think that the Book of Mormon is like their translation of the Bible, and then the Pearl of Great Price is like the addition, but I could have that backwards. But basically, that book is supposed to just teach you the foundational Mormon doctrine, and it's very interesting that now these Mormon missionaries that came to your door. Do you remember what color they were?
well, like they didn't come to my door. It was just I just met them on coincidence stuff. They both was white men.
Okay. Okay. And that is not a coincidence. Okay. Pretty much 90% of Mormons are white because they believe. Now, I'm sure they didn't tell you this, and I don't even know if the Book of Mormon says it explicitly or if you have to get way deep into their teaching, but they did not even accept Black people into the official Mormon church until like the 70s. because they believed in their doctrine, in their original doctrine. So the Mormonism, so the Church of Latter-day Saints, whichever you call it, it was founded by a man named Joseph Smith. And he believed that dark skin was a punishment from God for being sinful. And the better you were, the more good deeds you did, the lighter your skin would get. And so that, was prominent teaching for Mormonism for most of the time that it's existed. And only very recently have they even allowed Black people or brown people to be a part of it. And so, so there's that. That's another thing about Mormonism for you. So yeah, I'm sure they were very nice, but you don't want to have any part of what they're doing because it's all wickedness and it's ungodly.
Okay, so you want me to like throw the book in the trash?
Trash, shred it, burn it. I know it's getting pretty cold outside, so if you want to have a bonfire, then that is perfect to get it going. So however you want to discard of it is by me.
Thanks for the heads up, Jenny. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, because like tonight the topic is the occult and like dark magic and things like that. And so, it's important that, we don't even allow these things to get a foothold in us. And so let's say, you're bored one night and you just have that lying around, you might open it up and start reading it and and some of it might make sense to you, and then you might call up because you can organize through their website, to have a Mormon missionary come to your house. And and then before you know it, you're totally ensconced in a false religion. And so yeah, don't even let the devil get a foothold. Don't go to some Asian country and bring back a little Buddha because it was on, it's a trinket or it's a souvenir. Just completely reject all of that false religion stuff so that way nothing can even get a foothold on you.
Thank you.
Of course. You're another very loyal supporter, so of course I'm going to give you the best advice as well. But yeah, you don't want to have anything to do with that junk.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Did you have any more questions?
Well, yeah. Well, have you got my book, The Bible, yet?
No, I haven't gotten it yet, but I do remember you messaging me about it, and so I haven't forgotten it. But it was funny. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was just saying earlier in the stream that niggas don't read, and so it's not just you. It's just the fact that reading things other than the Bible are not on my priority list. So I don't want you to think that I'm singling you out. Because I have another viewer and he writes books, and I haven't gotten any of his books either. But that's nothing. That's not a personal strike against you or anything like that.
But at least the Bible, it's a little remix of the Bible.
Okay. Well, yeah. I definitely, I need to. I mean, like I said, I have it kind of locked away in my mind. But yeah, I do need to eventually get on that and check that out because we gotta support each other here in our content creation. So I do plan on checking that out. But if you want, you can stay and you can comment on this video that we're about to review
Okay.
because we're about to start talking about how witchcraft and the occult, rears its head in places that are supposed to be churches or supposed to be, with people who are supposed to be Christians. Jason, he it's not the Bible, it's Nigible. So it's
The Bible.
Nigibible, right?
Yeah, Nigible.
Oh, IBLE. Yeah, Nigible. So if you have a link to it, you can drop it in the chat so people can look into that. It says thanks.
And
Yeah.
I'm
So
so proud. And I'm so proud of the book because I invented the word. So like you can just type it up on Google and you're gonna see nothing but the Bible.
yeah, you've kind of blazed your own trail in that respect.
Thanks.
So yeah, we are about to pull up this video. We have this one. before my internet decides to, jump off a cliff again. So this what this clip is about is Pastor Kenneth Copeland, who did this very strange symbolic blood ritual at a conference back in 2020, where he symbolically cut his hand and did like a blood offering with another guy that was on the stage. And so this is paganism. This is not from the spirit of God or the spirit of truth. This is dark magic-esque. And so we're not going to watch this whole thing, but just a few moments of it.
On this a couple of days ago, but if you don't follow Spencer, you may not have seen this yet. At the 2020 Southwest Believers Convention, Kenneth Copeland gives a demonstration in understanding covenant. They start off by mixing salt in a bag to demonstrate that when you mix two people's salt, it's impossible to know which is which or to separate them. And then it gets just creepy.
Now, so this is your cup.
Yes, sir.
This is my cup. So pour that in there. Okay.
That's the cutting of the covenant.
Now, is it just me, or is that not a bit freaky? Even includes the drama of the moaning effects.
And then I would do the same.
Jesus said, take this cup. This is my blood of the new covenant.
Yes, Jesus did say that, but he didn't cut his hand and drip blood into the wine.
Now we've mixed our blood.
Which is his and which is mine. Now our blood symbolically has been mixed here. Now at the communion table,
Yes, sir.
he said, this is my blood of the new covenant. All of you drink all of it. Judas had to drink that.
Yes, sir.
So, now, and I want you to be this way every time you take communion, and you ought to take it a lot. A lot.
Yes, sir.
Now his blood is in my body.
Yes, sir.
It's in there. His blood is mixed with my blood. Can you see it? Western people don't know anything about covenant. Eastern people do.
So this is just a really strange way to explain this. It resembles something more New Age than biblical. Jesus' blood covenant was...
I mean, are you listening to this? You can hear the oohs and the ahs from the people in the audience just eating it up with fork and spoon. Like, oh wow, that is really something. Like, this is ridiculous. Had you ever seen this clip?
No.
Oh my goodness. Jason says that he had seen a clip of this before, but yeah, I mean, just craziness and just, I mean, it's the people, it's the other two guys on the stage that are not only like kind of partaking, but just like, oh yeah, yes sir, and and just kind of going completely along, like acting like this is normal. And it's like one thing that you'll find with, I don't know how much how acquainted you are with going to church and stuff like that, but a lot of pastors, they're very much on the hunt for something new. And I think I mentioned this last week, but if something is new, especially in regards to Christianity, then it's not true. And so many pastors, they want to have some new fancy special doctrine that no one's ever taught before, so that way they can kind of monopolize on it and coin it. And it's like, oh, I've never heard that before. Did you hear Pastor so-and-so? He taught on, John chapter 6, but he said something I had never heard before. And it's like, well, then it's probably false, because there's no new thing under the sun, okay? And so this is just crazy. And like the channel says, I don't know what channel this is, but like the host of the channel says, this resembles more of New Age. It resembles more of Catholicism, taking a more literal understanding of this passage and of communion than it's meant to be. And it's just so crazy how little discernment so many Christians have. Jason, he says, the followers will eat up everything thrown at them from their favorite television pastor. He knows that and is playing them with utter disrespect. Yeah. I mean, they're like, you can just hear them. You can hear them from the crowd as they're just like, wow, in slack-jawed amazement at this analogy that this man put together. And it's like, are y'all for real right now? So there's that. And you can give any commentary you have while I pull up our last video of the evening.
Yeah, that was wild. I haven't seen nothing like that. Like, guy just pouring the blood in the cup. And do you think that's like kind of like devilish behavior in a way?
I think that is definitely, demonic behavior, talking about drinking, like literally drinking blood. And it was never meant to be that. Okay, let me see. Okay, yeah, this is what I want. Okay, so our last clip of the evening is from a church. Yeah, Jacob, where you been at? Well, honestly, you didn't miss a whole lot, because I had 2 snafus with my internet again. So thankfully, you're at the end where hopefully that won't happen again. But better late than never. But our last clip of the evening is from Mike Todd, who is a pastor that I had never heard of until this whole stuff. And so what happened, I believe that this was, I think 2021, maybe 2022, at his church for Easter Sunday, that is, okay? So, pastors, of course, pastors all over the country, they're trying to pull out all the stops for Easter for, the CNEs that come in, the Christmas and Easter crowd who, don't show up at church any other time. So they're trying to, kind of lure them in. And so Mike Todd is no exception. And so he puts on this complete spectacle at his church, use that term loosely, where it's perverted and it's lewd and it's worldly and it's just completely seeker sensitive. And it's totally not of God, and it looks occultish and it looks pagan. He says he had to get his kids to bed before any occult conversation. Hey, it's all good. No worries. The kiddies come first. But here's this little clip. It's almost 2 minutes long, but just feast your eyes on this, everybody.
Let's make the most of the night like we're gonna die. Let's make the most of the night like we're gonna die. Stop the track, let me stay back. So give me a minute and I'll be right back. Got the prince in my dungeon, they said that I couldn't get it. I done got so sick and filthy with envy. I can't free to tell me.
Jimmy out, I'm getting to the money. Everybody back. I think I'm getting too much money. Everybody back.
As we were saying, Dragon, this is what you need to do. Step 1, find you a baddie. Okay. But step 2, He gotta have a fatty.
Hey,
Yeah.
look back.
Fatty.
Uh-oh.
What is she doing?
Friends, I don't have a fatty. Girl, we keep telling you it's okay.
Your little booty matter too, friend.
Y'all know they don't be discriminating. Okay, demons, now let's get information.
So yeah, that was church. Okay, that was the house of God. That was a congregation of born again, blood washed, set apart believers. Jacob, aren't you familiar with church? That was church. What did we go to on Sundays to glorify and honor God and to separate ourselves from the world? That was church. Why are you're acting unfamiliar? Like you've never been to church before. What's going on, Jacob? Guys, I mean, because I hadn't seen all of those clips at first, but I had seen bits and pieces of it. Like I saw that clip where they were talking to each other about the fatties. I mean, just everything in it was just so worldly and so ungodly. I mean, so it's not even just the fact that it was satanic, but it was just worldly. First off, women in pants, and not only are they in pants, but they're in these skin-tight leather pants that look painted on, and they're wearing all black, and they have those long dumb weaves in their hair, and they're talking about, oh, you got to get a fatty, like talking about your because I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this, but basically just talking about your bodies in a sexual way up at church, and it's unbelievable. The fire, and I talked about non-denominational churches a few weeks ago, and I said, which I still stand by for the most part, that if I were ever in some town for some reason that didn't have like a kind of halfway decent Baptist church, but they had a non-denom church, I would go to the non-denom church as a substitute, because a lot of non-denom churches, they are not like that. Okay. And you could make the argument that, they're teaching, free grace, that they're teaching, that you can't lose your salvation, but, they're just lacking discernment. That argument could be made about some of these churches. But what we just saw was completely inexcusable. It was worldly, it was sensual, it was devilish. Okay. There's a verse that uses those terms that I don't bring up because I can't think of it off.
Yeah, like to be honest, it looks like they was really worshiping the devil.
Yeah.
Fire and all that nonsense.
Yeah, it looked satanic. Okay, here it is. Is my tab still up? No. But yeah, so it is James 3:1, which says that this wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. Okay. And so this is such a perfect verse for that, because the wisdom that Mike Todd, that was the pastor of that church, who ordained or gave the green light for all that buffoonery. Him and his outreach team, when they were cooking up this bonanza for their Easter service, they were using the wisdom of, this is what people like. They're like parodying popular worldly songs, trying to, they're like, oh, well, these songs are popular and this is what people like. And, this is interesting and eye-catching, and people are going to be talking about this. And, we're going to bring out the smoke machine and the fire machine, and we're going to have the strobing lights. And it's because, people are just going to think that it's awesome. People are going to think that it's a lot of fun, and they're using their marketing, their, I guess, that area of their mind, that wisdom, to try to lure these people in to get people talking, going to their church. However, this wisdom descendeth not from above. It is earthly, sensual, devilish. Okay. And so the right way to try to get butts in seats at church is to go out soul winning, get people saved, and then encourage them to start going to church and start living a wholesome, clean life, not just try to, pick up any, trash off the street and just, just for the sake of having a church full, having it full of people who care nothing about God and want to listen to, remixes of Beyonce and Rihanna music. And just absolutely no standards, no discernment, nothing like that. Were you about to say something?
No, I was just laughing.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And sometimes I forget that churches are even like that, because I've just been so in my fundamentalist bubble, for the past few years. But, people, they honestly think, like, oh, this is totally fine. This is okay. And it's not. It's wickedness. And I thought that would be the perfect way to wrap up a stream talking about, the occult all around us. People go to church because they expect something different from their everyday life. They expect something different from the world. Like if you went on if you went to a spa, if you went to a sauna or a resort, you would expect a certain level of calmness and peace. You don't expect to hear like cars honking and people talking loudly on their cell phone and people rushing you from place to place, because that's just not the atmosphere that you went there for. Okay. You went there for a certain type of atmosphere, for a certain vibe, and that's what you went there for. And I believe that people go to church because they expect a certain atmosphere, they expect a certain vibe. And that is not the vibe that church is supposed to give off. That is not the kind of aura, the atmosphere that church is supposed to have. Was that indistinguishable from a club? Like, would you be surprised if you went to a club and saw some kind of presentation like that?
No.
No, that looked like a club. That looked like something that would be hosted by a radio station. And so this is not church. And ironically enough, people who are really seeking the Lord and really, want to have a relationship with God and are looking for truth, they're not fazed by this. It looks corny. It looks cheap. It's cringy to them. And thank God, because they can be led to a real church that's, Baptist and fundamental and all the good stuff. But yeah, y'all. Jacob says, has anybody watched Righteous Gemstones? Reminds me of this church. No, I've never heard of that. I wonder, is that like a YouTube channel? Is that a TV show? I'm not familiar with that. He also says, they want to attract the people that don't think God is enough to worship. Oh, that's a really good point. These type of seeker-sensitive churches, they want to attract people that don't think that God is enough to worship. They want to attract people who aren't interested in God. Okay. Yeah. And it's ridiculous. So yeah, friends. Oh, it's an HBO show. Okay. I don't have HBO. Do you have HBO? Michi, can you hear me?
Oh, I thought you was talking to Jacob.
Oh, no. Do you have HBO?
Nah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of that show. But apparently it talks about stuff like that. But yeah, and so that's the show for tonight, friends. That's about as all as I can take, and I'm pretty sure this is about as all that my internet can take. So, do you have any final thoughts about anything that we watched or anything come to mind for you?
Yeah, it was wild. What I seen, it was like that book I showed you, and what you were saying. It's kind of like what we saw.
Okay.
But I appreciate you for having me, Jenny. It's always a pleasure.
Oh yeah, of course. You are welcome anytime. And so you probably caught the best part of the show, honestly. So you came just in time to witness, the best part of the craziness. So So yeah, so thank you for coming up, Michi. And yeah, be sure that you know, you come back after the stream and leave a link for your book for anybody who wants to check that out as well, so we can all support each other.
So like stay on the comments or
Yeah, you can drop it in the live chat, or you can
okay.
once the stream ends, you can leave it in like the regular comment section.
Okay.
Yeah. And so thank you very much for hopping on tonight, and I look forward to talking to you again.
It's always a pleasure, Jenny. You're the best.
Thank you. So, yes, friends, that was the show for tonight. Okay, so the occult is all around us. Okay, you can even go to church and try to escape it and try to, you know, find a couple hours a week of refuge from, you know, the world and, you know, being inundated with scantily clad women and loud, ignorant music and, you know, strobe lights and fog machines, and you can't even get a quantum of solace at your local church of all places. If only you knew how bad things really were. But yeah, and so that's that. But I cannot close out a stream without giving you guys my weekly bump date. Now, for those of you who are a bit more regulars, then you'll kind of notice that I'm not in the same position that I normally am in. That my lovely mountain background picture is not behind me tonight. I'm kind of, you know, at a different angle. And that is because now that I'm officially 8 months pregnant, I have just become so sore, and most chairs are unbearable for me to sit in. And so I am sitting on a bouncy ball. So if it looks like I'm like kind of bouncing, I am. I'm sitting on a bouncy ball because now, well, I mean, I really could have been doing this for the past few weeks, but I just got a bouncy ball that was right for my height. I needed a bigger one because I'm taller than average. And so I finally got my bouncy ball, and this is where I'm going to stay. This is like the only chair I'm going to sit on in my house from here on out. It just feels so much better. It's easier to get up because I can just kind of bounce and like help me get up. And so it's just great. So that's why I'm kind of askew. So yeah, this will probably be the angle that I'll be streaming from for the next few weeks, you know, before our little nugget, our little newest Jeanette makes his appearance. And so there's that. But also, now that I am 32 weeks, we got to get our 32-week update, which here he is in all his glory. Huh, man, the word of the day is exhausted. And I even slept well last night, but still, I am pretty tired. And so there he is. And he is coming right along. He's about 4 pounds now, I think. You know, I haven't had him weighed in a while, but he, according to the videos that I watch, he should be about 4 pounds or 3.5 pounds, closing in on 4 pounds. And I feel it. I feel like he is about 4 pounds because it just seems like every day I get up and, you know, a few more ounces have been added on to my abdomen. And I am just trying to hang in there because he really should not come out yet, even though if he did, it would not be the worst news ever. But he really should be baking in there just a tad a bit longer. You're pretty much green to go at 37 weeks, even though it's, you know, the best to wait until 40 weeks. But after 37 weeks, you're pretty much in the clear, and, you know, you can have him at any time, and everything's going to be, you know, peachy keen. So I have at least 5 more weeks, or 4 weeks. What's 37 minus 32? But yeah, I have a few more weeks left to go, at least, but I have 8 weeks to go until I am full term. 6 weeks. Yeah, I have at least 6 weeks to go. No, 5 weeks. Yeah. Anyways, I have a few weeks left, and I'm trying to tough it out, but sleeping has become a chore. My husband and I, we were, hanging out earlier, after he got off work. We went to the mall, and we were just kind of moseying around, and it was just so uncomfortable. And I was just like, I just looked so pregnant. Like, it wasn't even just the fact that like my stomach was poking out. It was just the fact of how I was walking, like my mannerisms. I was just like, he was like pulling me along. He was like, "Are you okay? Do you just sit down?" And I was like, walking is good. Walking is going to help me. But I'm just like, I'm just trying. And it's just so much. So, yeah. So we were walking around and he was just weighing me down. But he's coming along. He's healthy. So, and I'm trying to stay healthy. So that's all that really matters. And once again, our favorite Jeanette Beak, he dropped the registry. So anyone who is interested in that, then feel free to pop over there and get something over there. But of course, if you can't, then don't worry about it. Of course, we're still living under Bidenomics. So don't feel pressure to at all, I promise. Okay, 5 weeks. Yes. I have at least 5 weeks that he has to stay in there. But I'll be, ideal at 8 weeks. So thank you, Jason. So yes, friends, and we got another gift. We got our baby scale so we can measure him when he comes out and, as he grows to make sure that he's, growing how he's supposed to. So yeah, just everything is kind of coming along. I was telling you guys on Every Word Wednesday that I'm waiting for my Medicaid to get approved. So hopefully that is coming along. I was supposed to get a phone call today about that, and I did not get the phone call I was supposed to get. So that is not good. But, hopefully they'll call me tomorrow. JIB says, "Yay, I thought about you the other day." Did you? Well, I'm ashamed that I'm not familiar with you. But I appreciate you thinking of me. And hopefully more than just thinking about me, you're praying for me. So thank you, JIB. But yes, friends, so I thank all of you for once again enduring my struggle stream. Friends, I promise I pay my internet bill. I don't know what's going on. Like I said, I think it might be those trees I was talking about. So hopefully that's it. And, we can just get that rectified. But yeah, so we're just going to keep trying to push through and, just hang in there until things get better. But I am not going to get my Spotify deal at this rate if my streams cannot handle what I'm producing. But, we're going to figure it out, friends. We're going to get there. But anyways, I look forward to talking to you guys again on Wednesday. I was supposed to be on Black Man Unfiltered tomorrow, but I am going out of town tomorrow, and I don't think I'll be back in time. I'm not sure, but I didn't want to plan on being at Black Man Unfiltered if I'm not sure what time I'll be back in town. So I'm not going to be able to do that tomorrow. So next time I talk to you guys, it will be on Wednesday for Every Word Wednesday. And so you guys looking forward to that, and that will be great. He says that he subbed a couple of weeks ago. He was wondering if I had the baby. Okay. Yes. No, I had a few family members text me saying that, "Oh, congrats on, I heard you had the baby." And I'm like, I didn't have him yet. People keep asking me, they're like, when are you gonna, when are you gonna send out me an invitation? I thought we were cool. I didn't get an invitation to your shower. I'm like, the baby hasn't come yet. I haven't sent out the shower invitations. No one has been slighted. Okay. So, if you're waiting for an invitation, if you're someone in my, close circle who thinks that you should get an invitation, you probably will. They just have not been sent out yet. Okay. So everybody cool your jets. All right. So the baby's not here. Shower hasn't come. It's all good. But anyways, I will talk to you guys on Wednesday. I hope you have a great rest of your night. And I will talk to you again real soon.